What if the reason your memory keeps slipping has nothing to do with your age and everything to do with what you're not eating before you go to sleep? Tonight, I'm walking you through 7 specific foods ranked from helpful to genuinely powerful that can begin restoring your brain's memory function in as little as 10 days. Stay until the end, because the number one food on this list is backed by research showing a 63% improvement in memory recall speed in adults over 60. Not 6%, 63, and almost nobody is using it correctly. If this is the kind of content you want more of, subscribe right now. I put out clear, practical health information for adults over 60 every single week. My name is Dr. Cedric Loxley. I specialize in senior health with over 15 years of clinical experience. I've worked with thousands of men and women over 60 who came to me genuinely frightened about their memory. Forgetting names mid-sentence, missing appointments, walking into a room with no idea why they were there. What I kept finding wasn't a disease. It was a deficiency. A consistent gap between what the aging brain urgently needs at night and what most people are actually giving it. Here's what's physically happening. After 60, your brain produces significantly less of a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, the chemical responsible for forming and retrieving memories. Think of it as your brain's internal filing system. When levels are healthy, you can pull up almost any memory effortlessly. When they drop, those mental files start sticking. Research in the Journal of Neuroscience shows acetylcholine can fall by as much as 45% between ages 60 and 75. That's nearly half your memory retrieval capacity, declining without most people realizing it. And here's what makes this especially critical. Your brain does the majority of its memory consolidation work while you sleep. What you eat in the hours before bed has an outsized impact on how well that process runs. You're not just having a snack. You're either equipping your brain's overnight repair crew or leaving them with nothing to work with. Let's get into the 7 foods. Number 7, pumpkin seeds. A small handful contains magnesium, zinc, iron, and copper, all essential for nerve signaling and memory. The one that matters most here is magnesium, which drives a process called long-term potentiation, your brain's mechanism for converting short-term experiences into lasting memories. A 2021 study in the Nutrients Journal found that adults over 60 with higher magnesium intake performed significantly better on memory tests. The difference was clinically meaningful, not just statistical. Eat a small handful of raw or lightly roasted pumpkin seeds 30 minutes before bed. No salt, no oil, and chew them slowly. Thorough chewing activates salivary enzymes that begin mineral extraction before you even swallow. Number 6, walnuts. Walnuts are one of the richest plant-based sources of omega-3 fatty acids, specifically alpha-linolenic acid, which converts partially into DHA, the primary structural fat in brain tissue. As we age, DHA in the brain declines, and neural communication suffers with it. UCLA research in the Journal of Nutritional Biochemistry found that regular walnut consumers scored significantly higher on memory and cognitive assessments with the combined effect of omega-3s, antioxidants, and polyphenols, providing both structural support and oxidative protection. 4 to 6 walnuts before bed, chewed completely. And don't peel off that thin, slightly bitter inner skin. That bitterness is the highest concentration of antioxidant compounds in the entire nut. Number 5, tart cherries. Not sweet cherries. Tart cherries specifically. They're one of the few whole foods that naturally contain melatonin, but that's not why they're on this list. Recent research has shown that melatonin functions as a potent antioxidant inside the brain, specifically protecting mitochondria, the energy-producing structures within neurons. When those mitochondria are damaged by oxidative stress, neurons lose their ability to communicate properly, and memory suffers. A 2020 study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that older adults who consumed tart cherry juice daily for 12 weeks showed significant improvements in episodic memory and measurable reductions in brain inflammation markers. About 20 to 25 dried tart cherries, chewed slowly 30 minutes before bed. If you can only find the juice, 4 ounces is equivalent. How old are you right now? 60s, 70s, beyond? If you've noticed your memory slipping even a little, type memory in the comments. You might be surprised how many people are in the same place. Number 4, almonds. Most people know almonds are healthy, but few understand the specific mechanism that makes them valuable at night. Almonds are rich in vitamin E in the tocopherol form. a fat-soluble antioxidant that concentrates inside the fatty membranes of brain cells, acting as a frontline defense against oxidative damage. Here's why nighttime matters. During sleep, the brain activates the glymphatic system, a flushing network that clears toxic waste products, including amyloid beta proteins linked to cognitive decline. This process generates temporary oxidative stress. Without enough vitamin E, the brain can't adequately protect itself during its own cleaning cycle. A landmark JAMA study following over 2,000 adults over 60 found those with the highest vitamin E intake showed a 41% slower rate of cognitive decline. 8 to 10 raw almonds before bed. Soak them for 6 to 8 hours first. The skin peels off easily, and removing it increases vitamin E absorption by eliminating enzyme inhibitors that can block uptake. I had a patient, Patricia, 71, a retired school teacher from Boston, who came to my office writing reminders on her hand just to remember her grocery list. She'd forgotten her daughter's birthday for the first time in 47 years. She expected me to write a prescription. I told her to give me 30 days with a simple nightly food protocol instead. 3 weeks later, she called, "Dr. Loxley, I remembered every single name at my book club last Thursday. Every one. I haven't done that in 2 years." By month 2, her daughter called me directly to say her mother seemed like herself again. That wasn't a miracle. That was her brain finally receiving what it needed every night to do its job. Number 3, dark chocolate at 70% cacao or higher. The key compound here is epicatechin, a flavonoid that directly stimulates the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor. Think of BDNF as fertilizer for your brain. It promotes the growth of new neurons, strengthens existing connections, and specifically supports the hippocampus, the region most responsible for forming and storing new memories. A study in Nature Neuroscience found that adults consuming high flavanol cacao daily for 3 months showed significant improvements in hippocampal function and memory test scores. The researchers called the effect remarkable for a dietary intervention. 1 to 1.5 ounces, chewed slowly before bed. Don't drink milk with it. Milk proteins bind to flavonoids and significantly reduce absorption. If you're finding this useful, hit like and subscribe. It genuinely helps me reach more people who need this information. Number 2, kiwi fruit. This one surprises most people. Kiwi has one of the highest serotonin precursor contents of any whole food, and serotonin's role in memory goes beyond mood. It's a direct precursor to melatonin and plays a critical role in the memory consolidation process during REM sleep. When serotonin is low going into sleep, REM quality drops, and with it, your brain's ability to properly encode and store the day's experiences. A Taiwanese study in the Asia-Pacific Journal of Clinical Nutrition followed adults over 60 eating 2 kiwis an hour before bed each night for 4 weeks. They fell asleep faster, slept longer, and scored higher on memory assessments. 2 ripe kiwis, skin removed, about an hour before sleep, chewed, not blended. Chewing activates the parasympathetic nervous system and signals the brain to begin winding down, which itself improves the conditions for overnight memory consolidation. And now, number 1, raw garlic. I know what you're thinking. Stay with me. Raw garlic contains a compound called allicin, which forms the moment garlic is chewed or crushed. Allicin crosses the blood-brain barrier with unusual efficiency, enters the hippocampus directly, and activates a process that no other food on this list can replicate. Specifically, it activates an enzyme called NRF2, essentially the master switch of the brain's internal antioxidant defense system. When NRF2 is triggered, the brain produces its own antioxidants, including glutathione, at dramatically elevated levels. Glutathione is well documented in neuroscience literature for its role in protecting and restoring hippocampal neurons. A 2022 study in Frontiers in Aging found older adults who consumed raw garlic regularly showed a 63% improvement in memory recall speed and a 51% reduction in oxidative stress markers in brain tissue. Those numbers are extraordinary by any standard in nutritional neuroscience. But here is the critical detail. It must be raw, and it must be chewed. Cooking destroys the enzyme, allicinase, required to produce allicin. Swallowing a whole clove produces almost none either. The chewing is the mechanism. Without it, you're just eating a mild-flavored bulb with none of the benefit. 1 small to medium raw garlic clove chewed thoroughly 30 minutes before bed. If the intensity is too much, a small piece of the dark chocolate we already discussed works well as a chaser. The fat content in cacao actually enhances illicit absorption slightly. I had a patient, James, 78, a retired engineer from Chicago. For 40 years, he was the sharpest person in any room. When he came to my office, he had gotten lost driving home from his own son's house, a route he'd taken hundreds of times. His wife was holding his hand so tightly her knuckles had gone white. He said, "Doctor, I'm terrified of what's happening to me." He'd already been told by another physician that this was simply age-related decline and nothing could be done. I told James I wasn't willing to accept that answer. I put him on the full nightly protocol with specific focus on the raw garlic. 1 clove every night for 45 days, followed by a piece of dark chocolate in bed within 30 to 40 minutes. At the 6-week mark, he came back and said, "I drove to my son's house last week and made a turn I'd been missing for months. I didn't even think about it, I just knew it." His wife told me he was finishing sentences he used to lose, completing thoughts, laughing at jokes in real time. She said, "I have my husband back." James looked at me and said, "Dr. Loxley, I will do this every night for the rest of my life." This wasn't magic. It was his brain receiving what it had been starved of, at precisely the moment it could do the most good. Here is your complete action plan. About 60 to 90 minutes before bed, 2 ripe kiwis, chewed slowly. 30 minutes before bed, 1 raw garlic clove chewed thoroughly, followed by a small piece of dark chocolate. Throughout the day or as part of your evening, a handful of soaked raw almonds, a handful of walnuts, a small handful of pumpkin seeds, and about 20 to 25 dried tart cherries. The timeline: within 3 to 5 days, deeper sleep and more vivid dreams. A sign REM consolidation is improving. Within 10 days, faster word recall and clearer mental presence. Within 3 weeks, names and details that were slipping will start to stick. Within 30 to 45 days, measurable differences in daily cognitive function. 4 things to avoid. 1. Don't cook the garlic. Cooked garlic produces no allicin. 2. Don't skip the chewing. The mechanical action is part of the mechanism for nearly every food here. 3. Don't expect overnight results. This is a nightly protocol like brushing your teeth. Consistency is what produces lasting change. 4. Avoid alcohol and refined sugar before bed. Both suppress hippocampal neurogenesis and will undermine everything else you're doing. And one more thing I want to say clearly. You are not broken. In the vast majority of cases, memory difficulties in adults over 60 are the result of specific, correctable nutrient gaps and oxidative stress accumulation, not permanent damage. These are problems with solutions. Your brain wants to function at its best. It simply needs the right materials at the right time. Age doesn't remove the brain's capacity to recover. It makes the nightly support more important. Quick recap. Number 7, pumpkin seeds for magnesium and memory consolidation. Number 6, walnuts for omega-3s and neural structure. Number 5, tart cherries for melatonin and overnight antioxidant protection. Number 4, almonds for vitamin E during the glymphatic flush. Number 3, dark chocolate for BDNF and hippocampal growth. Number 2, kiwi for serotonin and deeper REM sleep. And number 1, raw garlic, triggering NRF2, flooding the brain with a lysine at the precise moment it can do the most good. My challenge to you: commit to this every night for 30 days. Keep a small notebook by your bed and write down 1 clear memory each morning. Watch that list grow sharper over time. One final story. Margaret, 68, a retired librarian from Seattle, called my office 3 weeks into this protocol. She had just attended a social gathering and remembered the names of 14 people she'd met only once before. 2 years earlier, holding on to even a few names felt impossible. She laughed and said, "Dr. Loxley, I used to love books because they never forget anything. Now I feel like a book again." She didn't change her medications. She simply began chewing the right foods before bed every night without skipping. And that same opportunity is available to you starting tonight. If this video helped you, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. A parent, a sibling, a friend who's been quietly struggling. One share can genuinely make a difference. Which of these 7 foods are you starting with tonight? Drop it in the comments. I read everyone, and your experience just might be what pushes someone else to take that first step. Because remembering starts with a decision, and that decision starts right now.